All right, in today's video, we're going to cover motor replacement with the extended sprocket on the shaft. This is going to replace any one of your 10-tooth or 12-tooth motors. We'll start with going over our packet and everything that's included in the kit. In your replacement kit, you're going to have a set of instructions. You will have two 10-tooth sprockets with the extended shaft, and two replacement motors. You'll come in with the 5/8 drill bit, your tooling to determine where you're going to put your hole in the mechanism or aluminum extrusion, 2 bushings, 4 set screws, 4 7/16 free running nuts, your tension gauge, a 7/16 wrench. In the kit also includes 4 adjustment nuts or coupling nuts. These are the ones that have the threads at the top and then the extra open shaft in below. In case you were to run out of adjustment while you're readjusting the slide, this will give you a little extra adjustment by using these nuts over the original. You're also going to need to come up with a set of Allen wrenches. Ideally, that one that's in the jamb currently, holding the motor in place, will be a 5/32, but it could also be a metric head if it's an older system, which would be a number 4 Allen. Once again, this is replacing the 10-tooth or the 12-tooth. This is your new motor replacement kit. With that, we'll go over to the unit. We'll get started on removing the jamb and show you how to install the extended shaft retrofit kit by BAL. A 2x4 and a jack help and support the bottom of the floor on this side, ensuring that that room's not going to shift or slide in and out on you. Now that we have our room, we want to try to get our room to a halfway position. Now, if your motor has locked up or went bad on you to a point where you're unable to move the room, we can go into some other situations where you can get this room to that point, to that halfway point, then remove the jamb once you've reached that halfway point. If the room is all the way in, we're going to remove our fascia that's covering this area. We're going to remove our cable studs from the bracket, and we may need to end up opening up the jamb clamp, removing it from the mech, and then disconnecting the outside cables from the chain. That'll free up the room. That's going to allow you to get this room positioned at a halfway position and then support it with a jack and a 2x4. If the room is in the out position and it's seized up at that point and you're unable to push the room manually and get it to the halfway position, at that point, once again, you'll still remove your fascia, remove all your hardware, remove your stud. Once the stud is loose in the bracket at top and bottom, you can go to the outside of the coach, remove your rubber grommets, remove the ball end of the cable, and now the room is free to move manually, push it in or out, and get it to that halfway position. Once again, supporting it with a jack and a 2x4. In this particular setup, we're at that halfway position already. First thing we're going to do is we're going to remove all of our hardware. You're going to want to start with your 7/16 nut from your 3/8 coupling nut. So you got your 3/8, your 7/16 on your jamb nut. Get those off of there. Be sure to set all your hardware aside. Don't lose it. 7/16 nut on the bottom. From that point, you can use your wrenches or you can use a drill, not an impact, with an adapter and a 3/8 socket. Once again, using our vice grips anytime we're adding or removing tension from the cable. Smooth portion of the adjustment stud, clamp on tight. We don't want those cables to spin on us. Once again, grab your washer off of there. Coupling nut, set that off to the side for later use. Go to your top and do the same thing. And it's important prior to starting all this process, you should have a jacket of 2x4 under the outside of the coach, supporting this side of the room, depending on what side you're changing. From here, I'm going to go ahead and remove my stud from the bracket, clamp on to the smooth portion of the stud, pull up and out. Sometimes they don't come out that easy. Sometimes it's necessary for you to remove all the fasteners but one, swing the bracket back to the extrusion so you can get this cable out. Remove my cable, take my cable guide, set it off to the side, go to my bottom, do the same exact thing I did at the top. Cable guide once again, there in the bottom. Now we'll go and remove our jamb clamp, all of our screws in the jamb clamp. Important to note, do not operate the slide with the jamb clamp off. You could permanently twist the mech, and then we'll have to replace the mech at that point. Always have that on if you're cycling the room. Standard is usually a number 2 square bit, but ensure the proper fasteners are in there and what bit you need. For this one, it's a number 2. Remove all my screws, securing it to the interior wall. Set those inside your box so you don't lose them. Now you take the clamp, pull it away from the interior wall. It'll come out of the back of the extrusion, kind of like tongue and groove flooring. Pull my cables through the slot in the jamb clamp. Now that's disassembled, broke away. Set that off inside your box as well, out of the way. Once your jamb clamp is removed, before going to the outside, make sure that you disconnect your power and your ground. Your ground and your power. Just remember which one goes to which. From this point, we'll go to the exterior of the coach and remove any fasteners or screws holding the rest of the mech into the opening. Now that we're to the outside of the coach, like I was telling you before, a 2x4 and a jack help and support the bottom of the floor on this side, ensuring that that room's not going to shift or slide in and out on you. It can still move, but it's not going to drop out on you or anything. You do have your brackets still secured to the inside, so that shouldn't be an issue. I've already took the luxury of removing the D-seal or bulb seal from the outside of the mech. I had a couple of screws in the top and the bottom securing it. Once that's out of the way, your next step is to go ahead and remove all your fasteners in the outside face of the mechanism, along with disconnecting your cables from the outside standoff bracket. First things first, we're going to go ahead and remove our cables connecting our box on the outside from the standoff. You've got a little rubber grommet in there. It's in the keyhole of the standoff bracket slot. Just allows this cable not to pop back out on its own. Go ahead and put your rubber grommet back in there so you don't lose it. Do the same to the top. Remove the grommet. Remove the cable. Put your grommet back in so you don't lose it. From this point, I'm going to go ahead and remove the remainder of the screws. Be sure to set all those screws aside so you have them to reinstall the mech. And in the event this was a coach that's already been sealed off, that would be sealant that you need to go ahead and take a blade or a knife and cut that sealant coming along the whole top or the whole length of the jamb from top to bottom. You just simply take your knife or your blade, run it along that exterior edge of the entire jamb until you broke everything free. On the back side, there could be a kind of like your window foam, a little bit heavier than that, that's holding this in place to ensure that there's no water penetrating through the screw holes, or there could be butyl tape. If there's butyl, you may end up having to pry this mech and then cut that butyl on the back side to get this jamb out. There's two other points of securement that could potentially arise, and that's going to be your anchor tabs. On this particular coach, we don't have any anchor tabs. They are optional to the OEM for a fiberglass walled unit. If it's stick and tin, you will have a top anchor tab and a bottom anchor tab. Once again, fiberglass, optional. You may have them there, you may not. This is an above floor slide sitting on the main subfloor. So I would have a tab in between my wipes going right down into my flooring. And then I would have one at the top in between the side wipes going up into the opening of the rough opening, that tube there. Your best bet to get those out, as in previous videos that Norco has done, is usually a number 2 bit, and it's going to be an extended bit. It's going to be super long. That's going to allow you that access room to get up in between there and get those 2 screws out, as well as the bottom. Important to note, you can also shove over on the box a little bit. You have 5/8 on both sides of the box, so you could shove this box to one side to gain a little more access. That's going to free up a little bit more room there for you to get in there and get those anchor tabs out. Once again, like I said, with this one, we don't have those. Sometimes a flathead screwdriver works really well, getting this all pried loose from the glass or the metal, and that's what we're going to do right now. So we have our flathead screwdriver. We're going to use this carefully, not to damage any glass. Wedge it in the back side here. Wiggle this jamb all loose from the glass. Once that mech is completely loose from top to bottom, you should be able to grab your cables at that point and simply pull the mech out. Now, once the mech starts coming out, go ahead and pull it out the rest of the way. You may have some sealant around the bottom leading edge or the top, so it may be a little difficult to remove the mech completely. Once the jamb is broke loose, we'll set this on a table and we'll start from there. So now that we have the mech on the table, we're going to go ahead and pull on the bottom cables together and pull all the slack out of that system, straightening up our chains. We are going to take our 5/32 Allen and we're going to break these 2 bolts loose in the back of the motor. You do have replacement hardware for these inside your extended shaft kit. Set your screws off to the side. Next, we're going to pull up and out on the motor, just like any standard motor replacement. Out of the reinforcement block there, containment block. And then we're going to pull up and outward with our motor. It's important to note, underside where it's connected to the sprocket, we're going to grab the center, remove it from the sprocket. We're going to hold that area. We're going to have a zip tie handy, just so we ensure we get ourselves timed up pretty close when we put the new motor in. We're just going to put a little loop in there with a zip tie through one of the opening links in the chain. I'm going to pull a little extra slack up out of here. I'm going to fold my chain back over my pulleys out of the way, just like so. This is the right hand side. That right and left is determined from standing inside the coach, looking at the slide. Right is right hand, left is left hand. In your kit, you're going to have 2 templates. One marked L for left, one marked R for right. We're going to go ahead and take that right hand template now with the hole going right about where that sprocket was riding at. There is some little excess grease in there. You can go ahead and wipe that out. It's not a big deal. Just make sure that area is clean. We want this to have a nice fit in there. At this point, we're going to have the letters R going up towards the top of the mech. Set it inside our mounting bracket for our motor. Just like so. Next, you'll take two of your Allen bolts, line up your holes in your motor mounting bracket and the template. And in the kit will come a 7/16 free running nut. Let's go ahead and 1/4 is what the thread is on it. Do the same to the other hole. Another nut. And at this point, we can go ahead and tighten those in place with a 7/16 opened end or speed wrench, gear wrench. And our Allen head on the outside. Nice and snug. You don't need to over torque it. Hand snug is fine. Okay, from that point, we're going to go ahead and take the provided 5/8 inch drill bit in the kit. This is going to have a 1/2 inch drive shank on the back of it. So ensure your drill can open up to the size to accept that size drill bit shank. At this point, we're just going to go ahead and mark our hole Once that hole is marked, we're not going to drill the 5/8 directly through it. We want to ensure this is as clean as possible, and we're going to go ahead and pre-drill the hole. Ideally, a smaller bit, such as like a 3/16, will work just fine. I've got a 5/16 here, line up with that pre-marked hole. I'm going to drill all the way through the extrusion at this point. Try to keep the drill straight up and down. We don't want to open up the hole any more than we need to. Go ahead and remove your pilot bit. Grab your 5/8. And we'll continue to open up the remainder of the hole to the 5/8 inch, trying to keep the drill straight up and down as possible. We don't want to open up the hole any more than necessary. Now that that hole is opened up to the 5/8 that we're looking for, we're going to go ahead and remove our template with our Allen and our 7/16. You can set those off to the side. You have two other Allen bolts for your replacement motor when we're ready for that. Now we're going to go ahead and remove our plate. And we're going to remove any of the shavings that we have, the aluminum shavings in there. You can pick this up, tap it on the ground, use an air line, an air hose, and blow it out with a nozzle. Whatever you prefer. Just want to get all those shavings out of there. Got most of them out. I'm going to take my rag, carefully scoop the rest of that out. Just want to make sure this area is nice and clean for the new motor to be inserted. This is a good time to go ahead and carefully feel the edges of that hole that you just hit. Emery paper or sandpaper or a small file works really nice to smooth out the edges if you have any rough edges there. All right, now we're ready to go ahead and insert our bushing into the aluminum extrusion. The lip of that bushing should remain to the inside or the interior edge of the extrusion. The rest of the bushing should go through the hole. Set it up and align it, and just simply press that into place. If necessary, and you have a real nice tight fit, which is what we're looking for, and you can't get it to go all the way, you can take a 3/4 inch socket, set it around here, and then on the top take a hammer and tap it into place. All right, so now we're just going to go ahead and tap that bushing down nice and tight in that opening. 3/4 inch socket. Nice and tight and flat all the way around the rim of that bushing. Once that's inserted, you're ready for your extended shaft sprocket motor. So you have your two motors. Once again, this was a right hand. Right hand is going to be determined off of your part number on your motor. 108-00184 is for your right hand side. Ensure that you have the 184. 185 is going to be dedicated for the left hand side of the room, standing in the room looking out. So we'll bring our motor over. Got our chain flipped back over, ready for the motor. We're going to go ahead and we're going to cut that zip tie. And when we do, we're going to ensure that we're hanging on to that link. You could be off a link or two, and we'll show you how to double check this and ensure that you have the chain set properly. Once we're ready to get to that point, we're going to go ahead and cut that zip tie just like that. Then we're going to grab our 184 motor, and we're going to set the chain back onto the sprocket. We're going to ensure that it's nice and tight. We're going to hold on to that. We're going to come back over to our jamb. We're going to grab the chain down below the pulleys. Make sure it's nice and snug, putting pressure on the motor and the chain at the same time. Sliding the chains back down the chain guides until we are aligned with that bushing in our extended shaft. So to give you an idea of what we're trying to achieve here, this extended shaft on the motor is being inserted through that brass fitting there that's snapped in to the extrusion. This is entering this area here and then fitting tight and aligning our holes in the back of the motor mounting plate. Pull on your chains, ensure you have all the slack out, and seat the motor back down into the bushing. Now that our motor is seated in place and our shaft is inserted in the bushing that we originally put in, we're going to double check our holes and ensure that they're nice and aligned, which it looks like they are here. Motor sitting in its containment block there. We're going to grab our 2 extra bolts. Once again, these should be 5/32 Allen bolts, and we're just going to start one at a time. Ensure that we're getting proper alignment. You don't want to cross thread these. Be mindful that they're going in straight. If they're cross threading, you're not seated properly. Once you got one started, go ahead and start the other one. You may have to wiggle around and push on that motor just a little bit to get them aligned proper. Now that they're both started, go ahead and snug them up. It's important to note, adding a little blue Loctite to the threads is ideal for this. You didn't see me do that, but that's what you would normally do. Snug them up, just hand snug. When I say blue Loctite, I mean blue, not red, yellow, green, any of the other ones out there that they have available to you. If something should happen and we did have to break this motor loose again, we want to be able to get these bolts back out of the back of the motor. Snug them up again. Now I'm going to pull all the slack out of the system by pulling on both bottom cables of the mech together. And like I was telling you earlier, making sure you put that in the exact same spot on the chain that you took the motor off at. Why it's key that you put that little zip tie in there to mark that spot for you. is we want to ensure that we're at the correct starting point. We don't want the cables to come up and crash into the pulleys once we've reinstalled this. Those cables are the same length. They should be the same distance. If it's not, you may have to break your 2 screws loose. Good thing we used blue Loctite. Pull our casing back out, our motor back out of its containment block, and then throw the chain one way or the other to ensure that we have the right distance here and that we are in the right location. So marking that chain is key. We eliminate that altogether. You can double check and verify by measuring from the outside of the patch where the cable's coming through out to the ball end. I've got 12.5. If I go to the outside bottom cable, I should have 12.5 as well, and I do. So now I know that I am timed up right to go ahead and reinsert this mech and then readjust the system with the new extended shaft or sprocket motor on it. So what we need to do from here that we won't show, but it is key to the installation, is go ahead and get your old rubber seal off of here and go ahead and put new backing foam or butyl tape back over your mounting holes, the full length of the mech. Take your motor wires, go ahead and tuck those back down in here where they don't get caught when you're reinstalling the mechanism. And then just ensuring once again we have all that slack pulled out of the system by pulling on the bottom cables. Now we're good to go ahead and reinstall our mech into the opening. And now we're back at the unit. We're getting ready to reinstall our mech. We've got our new foam on the back side or butyl tape. We've ensured that all of our slack is pulled out through the bottom cables. And with this one, this isn't an extended jamb that extends below the subfloor. It's going to sit right on the main floor of the unit. We're going to go ahead and insert our top first, slide it all the way up to the top. Make sure that our top cable goes to the inside of the coach. You may need to shove over on the box to give you a little extra space here. It's going to be tight. Sometimes that's going to get stuck there. You're just going to have to get on a ladder and go up there and make sure you get everything inserted properly. There, the top's going in now. Make sure my header wipe is pulled up out of the way. We're not catching that. Hang on to the mech. Come down to the bottom. Before shoving that bottom in, grab my bottom interior cable, throw it to the inside. Once the mech is resting back down on the flat sill, we want to ensure that the mech is installed properly. Proper installation of an exact slide jamb is that the motor's touching the interior of the opening and the bottom set of pulleys, the strap or the pulley pin, is touching the opening. So it's bottomed out at the bottom and the top up against the rough opening, as well as ensuring that we have proper alignment left to right here. We don't want to screw this down if we're not in position and the jamb's not squared up to the opening itself. Once it is, we can start and begin to refasten our mech into place. Looking like we're in position now. I'm gonna go ahead and grab one screw. Just like in previous videos, one low. And then set one just a little bit higher, ensuring that we have that jamb holding its position before putting in the remainder of the screws. Now from there, we'll go ahead and we'll finish off any exposed holes with the remainder of our fasteners. Grab a ladder, work our way up. This being one of our demo units that we're showing you this replacement on, you may have extra holes that are available. You wouldn't have that in your scenario. I got an extra screw here. Just go ahead and throw that in. Now it's time to go ahead and refasten our cables on the outside of the coach. We're going to go ahead and remove that rubber grommet from the standoff. Add our grommet back into that slot, that keeper. It just wedges around both sides of the bracket, stopping that cable from coming back out. Do the same at the top. And at this time, you can go ahead and you can reinsert your bulb seal that I had already taken off for this demonstration. You can go ahead and add that extra D seal or bulb seal back in place and screw it down at the top and the bottom to ensure it's not going to fall back out. Also, this would be a good time if you did have those anchor tabs to go ahead and reinsert your fasteners at the anchor tab points at the bottom between the wipes going back into the floor, and at the top in between the two vertical wipes going back into the top of the rough opening tube. At this point, we're good to go. We're going to go ahead and go to the inside of the unit and show you how to finish this off. Now that we've had the outside completely finished off, we have our bulb seal back on, our cables hooked up, and our rubber grommets in place, and the mech is screwed into position properly. We can ensure that by coming to the inside and seeing that our motor is up against the opening and our pulley strap is against the opening as well. Next thing to do is go ahead and add in our cable guides to our bracket. Remember, I told you earlier, put them to the side, don't lose them. You might need them again. Top bracket, top slot. Cable comes through. And it makes a 90-degree bend back into the bottom of the bracket. Once again, if you don't have room for this, use your vice grips. Clamp it onto the stud to give you a little more leverage. Pop it into the hole. If it's still too tight, remove all your screws, -1, swing the bracket back to the mechanism, reinstall the cable, pull your bracket back, add the rest of your fasteners again. That'll give you ample amount of room to connect the cable. Once again, bottom cable goes through the bottom slot. So we want to ensure that our cable guide is snapped in to our bottom slot. Back through. And then it needs to take that 90 back up in, and you can see I'm a little tight. I have room. I could shove on that box a little bit yet. That's what I'm going to do in this scenario. I'm going to take my vice grips for more leverage. Pull down, insert through the hole in the top of the bracket. And at this point, I'm not running out of adjustments on this. So the extra nuts that we put in the kit, which would be these here, to give you a little extra room to make more adjustments if you were maxing out with the standard nut. I don't have that issue, so we're going to go back with the standard nut. It's a flat washer, 3/8 coupling nut. They're about 7/8 of an inch long. Spin that on there. Not going to snug anything up just yet. We were using on this demo unit, we were using that extended shaft nut at the top just to show it off. I'm going to go ahead and put that back on, but you would have your standard nut up top as well. Flat washer, nut, and I'm not going to tighten up on that. Everything is going to be loose. Now I can grab my jamb clamp to ensure that you have this properly installed. Towards the mechanism is where your punch outs should be located, and then the little Z bend back to the wall. This little lip on the outside, it's going to be like tongue and groove flooring. This area is going to allow me to get it back over the cables, top and bottom. Before I do that, I'm going to want to pull my motor wires back up out of there to where they're not getting trapped and in the way. I'm going to lock the lip of the jamb clamp into the back of the extrusion itself. Be mindful at the bottom, you could have, and that folded over way too easy for me, that never happens. The bottom wipe can get caught on the flat seal material and prevent you from getting this to fold over properly. It may be necessary for you to go up a little higher, lock it into place, and then scoot it back down into position where the cables are running straight through the center of the punches in the jamb clamp. One thing to note, that's a little bit bigger hole in the bottom than we do the top on this jamb clamp. This one's been worked on. Once again, this is our demo unit. This is your punch location standard with your jamb clamp, and the cable should be running through the center of that diamond shaped punch. It's butted up to the top of the extrusion. Now I can go ahead and add my fasteners and secure this in place. Important to note, sometimes you have to pinch this at the top and bottom and work your way up it or down from the top in order to get it to clamp into position and then fold freely to the wall. If it doesn't fold freely to the wall, never force it with a screw. You take a risk, because it's not installed properly, of twisting the jamb permanently, and we don't want that to happen. So locked in from the top to the bottom completely and folding freely over to the wall from top to bottom. I'll go ahead and grab my fasteners at this point. An impact or drill and my number 2 bit. And we'll go ahead and we'll start screwing this jamb clamp into place. Another thing is if you run into a situation where, well, my screw's stripped out. It's okay, most of these are small little number 8 self-tappers. Go in between. If this one was stripped out, go in right next to it or above it or below it. Drill you another hole. Make sure you're getting into good material. It's crucial. This is structural. We want that clamp to be tight and screwed down to the wall completely. You're not going to void any warranty or anything like that if you add a screw hole above it or below it. If you are using an impact, be cautious of over torquing and stripping those holes out. Two more fasteners here towards the top. Going to go ahead and the mech is completely installed now. We don't have anything more to do there other than start our adjustment process and finish that out. And we also need to be mindful that this system was sealed up to where there was no water infiltration, and we're going to want to reseal this again when it's all said and done. You can check out our website, balrvproducts.com. Click on the support tab, then the drop down downloads, and you will have for Exact and Accu our sealing procedures available to you. We're going to want to seal in between the wipes where the mech is touching the opening, the top of the opening, and we're going to follow that all the way to the outside, lift the header wipe, and come all the way out to the outside bulb seal track on the outside of the coach. And on the bottom, we're just going to go in between the wipes at the bottom, just closing off the inside edge of the mechanism. The face stays open for water weep. You'll eventually end up sealing on the outside all along the side of the jamb. and close off any other areas that you may have been exposed when you pulled the jamb out. Be mindful of that so we don't get any water issues. All right, moving on. Jamb's installed. Need to go ahead and hook up our wiring, our power and our ground. I've got my black to my ground. And if this goes the opposite way, we just flip-flop the leads. It's just reverse polarity, 12-volt motor. Now that everything is complete on the outside and inside of the coach, I'm ready for my adjustment process. Once again, remove your jack and your 2x4, not to accrue any damage to your coach. Now that our jack is removed from the outside of the coach, nothing supporting the room, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna run this room in. And I got my wires backwards, I got them crossed. Once again, it's reverse polarity. Simply run it the other direction and then flip-flop your wires once you have it aligned. I did that intentionally for you guys. Flip-flop the black and red wire. And now we're good to go ahead and cycle the room all the way in to start our adjustment process. Notice I didn't add any tension to top or bottom cable yet. Hold the button till both sides come in and the room's sealed on the outside on both sides of the room. With our adjustment process, we have tension gauges. This takes the guesswork out and you no longer have to worry about 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch deflection on your cable adjustments. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna take our tension gauge. If you're not sure how to use this, I'm gonna explain it throughout the process, but we do have a QR code that takes you to a video and shows you how to use it. We're gonna start with our bottom cables first, going over and under on our post, clipping onto our cable. And I'm going to put desired tension on this bracket or this cable stud until my indicator slide comes down with my BTM locator and arrow and is in alignment with one another. Once I've reached that point, I'm gonna stop and we're gonna cycle the room. This would be in a scenario where I have not changed the motor out on the right side or the left side of the room at this point. If I replaced both motors, which you should be doing, on the left and right with the extended shaft, I would alternate back and forth on my outs first, get those set, and then move to my top cables. So for all intended purposes, we're just gonna do this one side because this is the one we're showing you. I'm gonna get my vice grips on that smooth portion of the stud. I'm gonna go ahead and use my 3/8 socket and adapter combo with my drill. If for any reason that cable stud starts to spin on you, stop what you're doing, go counterclockwise with your drill, with your vice grips broke loose, should tighten up that cable again. Then you can proceed to reclamp as long as the cable's not damaged and continue on with your adjustments. And I'm going to take it right to the BTM indicator. Once I've done that, I'm going to remove my wrench and my socket and adapter combo. Don't forget to remove our bracket. And now we're going to cycle the slide 3 full cycles. If you're unsure of how to do your adjustment process, we do have the initial adjustment video available to you on our webpage. I'm going to cycle the room out and then all the way back in. That's going to be 1 cycle and we're going to repeat it 2 more times. Hold it down till both sides extend all the way. As far as they'll go, cycle the room back in. Two more full cycles. You may notice a bit of a lag. The more times you cycle this, the motor controller is constantly learning. So eventually it will sync up with one another. As long as you're within 2 inches at a time, up to 2 inches at a time, but still sealing in the in and out position, normal function of the exact slide. This will be our third and last cycle. Now that I've had my 3 full cycles, I'm going to grab my tension tool. I'm going to attach it to the bottom cable. Once again, my tops are completely loose still. Over and under on the post, closest to the box. Lock my cable on. And it looks like I've lost a little bit of adjustment there. I'm going to go ahead and add the remainder to bring me up to my 1/4 inch deflection or the BTM on this particular tension gauge. Nice tight grip. And that's put me right back to where I need to be at the BTM locator on the gauge. Now I'll remove my tensioning gauge and I will move to my top. Top cable sometimes to get this gauge to stay attached when it's real loose like that. Just simply finger spin the nut until you got a little tension on it to hold it in place. Now that it's in place, I'm on my top cable, which is going to require me to go to the top locator with my slide indicator. Line up these 2 arrows, tighten it up. Till I have those 2 arrows meeting for the top cable. That's going to end up being the 1/2 inch deflection. If you are a customer doing this job on your own, you have the skills and tools to do it, you're more than welcome to. But you may not have access to the gauge. We are looking for 1/4 inch deflection, super tight on the bottom cable. 1/4 inch up, 1/4 inch down, really tight. Top cable, just like our AccuSlide, 1/2 inch up, 1/2 inch down. A little less tight than our bottom cables. Now that my adjustments are complete on this side, I can go ahead and put my free running 1/4 20 jamb nut on. All it is just a standard 1/4 20 free running nut. Goes up against the adjustment coupling nut, the 3/8, and then you lock them down tight. They are called a jamb nut for a reason. Finger snug is not enough. 7/16 on top, 3/8 on the bottom. Bring them together, snug them up. Do the same thing to the top. Tighten it up, pull them away from one another, tightening them together. My next step is either in that fully sealed position or extend the room all the way out to where it's sealed in the out position. I'm going to locate my motor controller in the coach. And on both sides of my controller are going to be 2 red buttons. Hitting those at the same time and holding them down for 3 seconds, a red light will begin to flash. Let off of the buttons, and I've reset my motor controller, wiped out its memory bank, and now it's learning fresh from a sealed position. Ensure you're not doing this anywhere in between your cycle. Fully sealed in the in or fully extended in the out position, reset your controller. Now my extended shaft motor retrofit kit has been completed on this side. I can go ahead and cycle this room a couple of times just to let the brain start to learn and ensure my timing is correct and I'm not having any issues with my controller. If you weren't prior, chances are you're not going to have any issues now. It is pulling out at an even pace. And my brackets are hitting on all four corners, and I'm getting a nice tight seal on the outstroke. Cycle it back in, double check your outside seal, just to ensure that you don't need to add any more tension to the cables. You did get all the slack out of the system. And your extended motor replacement retro kit at this point is complete. Once again, you do get two replacements in there, one for the left side and one for the right side. It's highly recommended that you, if one side went out, go ahead and do both sides. Replace both motors with the retrofit kit and then readjust the slide accordingly. Thank you.